So we're sitting down today. Obviously, I have known each other for years. This is probably my favorite place in all of San Diego. And the idea and concept behind sitting down was just to kind of open up like your head and what has gone into this restaurant over the last, is it 6 years now?
No, dude, it'll be 8 in June.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
So the first thing, and some of these questions I already know the answer to, but I'm so curious, and so I've been asked before, what does Barbusa stand for?
Yeah, so Barbusa is Bar Busalacchi, which is our last name.
Busalacchi.
And this was one of our existing restaurants called Popazzo. When we remodeled and revamped and rebranded, we were thinking of so many different ideas of what to do. The original restaurant that my dad started out 40 years ago was called Busalacchi's. So as soon as he opened up Busalacchi's and the wild success that place had, the name kind of became synonymous with Italian food and good service and good food, and you know what you're gonna get. And then, his empire grew a little bit, but when he started to tail down on his end of his time in his career, my brothers and we took over, and he's still around obviously, but started to kind of be more hands-on with what we were trying to accomplish. So we opened up Barbusa in 2016 with the nod to Busalacchi's with our last name, and just kind of rebrand our restaurant group a little bit more.
So you talk about family, and what is the dynamic with running a restaurant with your brother as well as your dad? Well, both of your brothers as well as your dad. Who does what? Kind of how does that break down, or the management style with all of this place? Oh, here we go. We gotta guess. You gotta pan over to him as a live shot.
Jesus.
Yeah, he's over there doing jumping jacks because he wants a little attention. This is how Italian families work. You just got people coming out of the woodworks every which way. But yeah, so walk us through some of the dynamic of family management, ownership, and stuff like that. Who does what?
So, like I said, my dad started the restaurants 40-something years ago, and we all kind of worked our way up from becoming a busser to a server to assistant manager to all the way up to kind of where we are with hands-on with building new concepts and et cetera. And then as things kind of slowed down for my dad, where he was at a point in his life where he was like, all right, I don't need 9 restaurants anymore. Let me focus on the 3 that make me the most money. And that's kind of, at that point is when my brothers and I started to get to an age where we were like, okay, confident enough to help in terms of like the day-to-day, build the concepts, figure out menus, do payroll, et cetera, all the stuff that maybe he was doing in the past has kind of been brought up to us to do now. With that being said, I think the nice thing is that for my brothers and I, we really know what all of our strengths are and what our weaknesses are. And I think when it comes to being able to differentiate the type of roles that each one of us has, I think that's what makes our restaurants so successful, is because we all do something really great, and we let that other person let them be great.
That's awesome. One of my favorite parts about Barbusa is the kind of the family style of it. When I first started coming here, how people treat you, they remember your name, they know what you like to eat and drink. How do you, I'm assuming that comes mostly from your father. How does he speak about that? What are some of the key principles that you guys talk about building a culture around service here, and explain how you kind of manage to that?
Yeah. So when it comes to guest interaction, obviously a main point, and per the reason probably why we're sitting here, is because the reason why I met you is because I came and touched your table and chatted with you from 8 years ago,
8 years ago, yeah.
So that's a really core principle that we hold. It's like, hey, yes, we are running a busy establishment, but if the people that come in here don't feel comfortable coming in here because the manager has come and touched their table, or the server is being really friendly, or whatever, you don't have a successful business. And we really take pride, and that stems all the way back, going back to your point, that stems all the way back to my dad and my mom, who who really cultivated that culture of, hey, let me go and shake the hands. We in the beginning, maybe now so much we do, but in the beginning we don't spend a ton of money on marketing or PR or stuff like that. We thought of all of our marketing and PR budget as our comps. And so me buying you that wine that night went under my so-called marketing budget because I know that you're gonna be like, shit, that really never happens. That's rare to go to a restaurant and some guy, manager, whomever, is buying me a glass of wine. And that portion of it trickles down to my staff, and my staff does a really good job of, and I tell them all of this, like, hey, I want you to feel like this is your home just as much as I feel like this is my home. Because that's super important, especially for people that we have here who are, I call them lifetime servers, who are going to be in this industry for the rest of their lives.
Right.
This is the life that they have chosen. And for them to feel ownership into a place is really special because that equates to being more successful on their ends as well, right? Not only the restaurant, but for them to create some sort of ownership for themselves and for the restaurant, hey, that equates to more people coming to see them, more times that they can serve that person, and the more times that that person is ultimately going to tip them more, right? More money in their pocket.
I want to get to the business side of it because there's a level of, I want to run comps, I want to make people feel friendly, but then how can you give me, people, some insight into how to run a profitable restaurant in light of high food costs, in light of not doing a ton of marketing, just all the challenges that go into it. What are some of the principles that you guys think at Barbusa that make you guys successful for the long haul?
Yeah, I think obviously the major expenses that you have in any business, whether it's your cost of goods or your payroll, right? Those are the two main ones that a lot of people look at. Hey, what's my payroll? What's my cost of goods? What am I purchasing? And I think in terms of the payroll aspect of it, we have such a great foundation of people that work for us that genuinely like to work for us, where they aren't trying to screw us on, I don't know, staying an extra hour or coming in a little bit early or, trying to really ruffle feathers when it comes to pay raises or anything like that, because they know, okay, I'm secure in my job. I know what to expect. I enjoy working here. I enjoy working for the people whom I work for. And that's something that we have created and are able to kind of maintain now.
Awesome.
And then when it comes to cost of goods, we're so hands on deck. We come from a really old school human being who didn't have that sort of tools or things that we have now. So he was literally going through every invoice and checking, okay, they sent me a pound of carrots. It costs $4.99 today, right? And then he'd check it again next week and be like, oh, dude, that carrot went up $2. Hey guys, why did my carrots go up $2, right? And he laughs at us now to when we're out with our computers and working on computers, because he's like, guys, like, it's really simple.
Yeah.
If we just really dive really deep into the shit that we're selling and buying and moving forward, then we can all just kind of make money. And he was really good at diving into things and not afraid to get his hands dirty. Like, not a lot of people are doing that.
What's the busiest day of the week at Barbusa?
I would say Friday, probably.
Friday
Yeah.
nights? Okay. What's your favorite part of what you guys have done here?
Yeah. I think my favorite thing that
aside from your favorite guest.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing that people say often is Barbusa is like my Cheers. And I think that us collectively, myself, my brothers, our staff, have done an excellent job at making sure that people do feel like they're at home when they come into this restaurant.
What I want to do now, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
is I would love to walk back behind the bar and look at your startup. While we're here, I want to look at
Busa.
Busa Expresso Martini
for sure.
and just get an idea and talk a little bit about like this venture.
Yeah.
I will say this is not my first time behind the bar. There is video and picture evidence that I have been back here before. And so one time I did do, and I don't know if you were here, although there is a camera, so you probably saw it, where I was mixing drinks. I'm like, it can't be that hard. And it was absolutely jam-packed. And when you sit on that side, it's easy because you're one-on-one, you're just kind of focused on one person. But when you get over here, it's all the people that are at the bar, sometimes 2 or 3 deep.
Right.
And on top of the tables that are behind that can be 2 or 3 deep. So it's an entire bar full of people, and you're the center of attention. You're on a stage when it comes to this. And so when I got back here, not only do I not know what the fuck I'm doing behind here, there's just so many options. I'm like, there are a lot of people that want your attention because they want to drink, and when they want to drink, they want it right now.
Totally.
So yes, and I made a terrible, terrible cocktail. But let's get back to the real cocktail. So this is to kind of set the stage, this is a startup that you guys did about a year ago?
6 months.
6 months ago. Okay, so you guys launched six months ago, but you're probably 2 years in.
2 years in now,
okay.
at least, yeah.
Okay, and so this is now, it's full production. Give us some idea as to how it came about and, take us through the last maybe 6 months of running this as a startup here and then what your distribution is elsewhere.
Yeah, so Espresso Martini, I think it's number 2 ordered cocktail in the world for the last 2 or 3 years, something crazy stat like that. When I was looking back at our numbers and going back to kind of how deep we dive into our numbers a lot of times, I was looking at numbers and I realized, I knew we did a lot of espresso martinis because obviously I would see them go out to tables. I would see people drinking them. When I went out to eat, I would drink one. But then when I actually really dove into some numbers and I said, holy cow, we are selling more espresso martinis than we are bread. It was the number 1 selling item in the entire restaurant. And that says a lot for someone who does 500 or so people a night. I know because I'm in the business, and for those of you who aren't in the business, making espresso martinis are very tedious behind the bar, right? If you don't have things kind of pre-batched or really ready to go, they are kind of tedious, and bartenders don't really love making.
It's like one of those drinks where you order it, it's like a mojito,
yeah, exactly.
right? Where you order it and you can see the look of disappointment in the bartender's fucking eyes, and they can't say anything, but they're like, oh, cool.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not worth my time.
So doing a lot, I also thought about the people in the business who are making these things so often, and how can we make this as easy as possible for people to serve at their restaurants.
Easier, quicker, more profitable.
100%.
Got it.
And for business owners or restaurant owners that are thinking about doing something like this, it makes so much sense. It saves you time, it saves you money, it frees away from that bartender making a minute drink to a 15, 20 second drink. Now he's got 40 more seconds or however to spend making another drink or talking to the guest.
Awesome.
So yeah, we came up with this formulation. I basically took our espresso martini, our recipe that we had for the last, 10 or so years, took it up to a flavoring lab up in Orange County, and I said, okay, I really want to duplicate this in a ready to drink cocktail. Can you help me out? And sure enough, they made a formulation of our ingredients dumbed down to about 5 different ingredients. I partnered with a vodka company out in Boise, Idaho, who distills and manufactures a vodka called Uncle Ed's Damn Good Vodka.
Yeah.
And so he became my partner on this project. His name is Walt, and his son Jordan, who's a chemist at UCSD, who helped with the formulation. But basically we came up with this recipe, which is 5 simple ingredients: vodka, water, oat milk liqueur, natural flavors, and coffee. And so we are not the only ready-to-drink espresso martini on the market, but we are, as far as I know, the only oat milk espresso martini ready-to-drink cocktail on the market.
And the best tasting,
and
the most flavorful.
And
I will say, because I know this and I want to make sure it's covered, is that when you do come into the restaurant, you do get a little extra vodka. There's an extra kick.
Yes.
So yes, you can order this through online.
Yeah, so we're in about 98 independent-owned liquor stores here in San Diego. You can purchase it online to be shipped throughout the nation. And
one of the things you've asked for in the past, and I thought it was a really good idea, something I've told friends and family, is whether or not it's offered at either liquor stores or restaurants, order it and ask for it, right? Like, because the name
For sure.
will get the attention
For sure.
of the ordering manager, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's also a way to help support.
Yeah, appreciate that. You know, we're just rolling around. We haven't got into big box retail, which would be like, you know, Target or Total Wine or Walmart or et cetera. Haven't gotten there yet. We're close. But I'm learning a whole new side of an industry that I love, obviously. But it's a challenging industry. There's so much in it. There's so many people in it. There's so much money in it. The big dogs really control a lot of the market.
Yeah.
So as a small startup, we're really trying to carve our nice little niche into a segment that's a really large segment.
That's awesome. Well, we timed this up perfectly.
I
Now
know.
we get to.
They brought some samples over. This is perfect. This usually happens often where someone's coming in and giving us samples to try. So
Very cool. True behind the scenes.
Master chef from New York. His name's Casey.
Nice to meet you,
Casey, you know my
Antonio.
dad?
No, nice to meet you.
It's your neighbor right there. Nice to meet you.
Hey, nice to meet you, Casey.
Casey,
Casey, yeah, I'm in the black building right across the street.
And the black one?
Yeah.
What is this?
Just don't tell him which one, because Casey, don't tell him which one, because he might come looking for you. Can't find me.
Hey.
What's up?
You mix this with cheese?
Whatever you want. Grab a piece of cheese. Grab
That's San Daniele, speck, mortadella, pecorino
Try
with
that salami.
peperosa, speck, questo speck qua.
Aspetta, a me che non ci piace. A me PJ piace, però. PJ, you want to smell something? Smell this. This is smoked olive oil.
Oh, wow.
See, in Italy, even in Italy, they becoming more Americanized.
Where's the speck?
Smoked olive oil,
Here?
affumicato.
Olio fumigato.
Smell it. Let them smell it.
What was that,
Smells
mozzarella?
smells like barbecue almost.
Good. What kind of cheese is that?
That's a Gran Moravia.
It's mixed between Parmigiano
Wow.
and Grana.
That's from
It's very
grapes.
good.
That's the grapes.
So we'll do one more, or Lala, and then
Yeah, so that just kind of shows you the
we can walk through the back then and
Yeah.
kind of do a little
yeah.
do a little B-roll through the kitchen. So just real quick as we
Yeah.
walk through, what goes on here versus back in the
Yeah,
in
so-
the different stages of the back of the house?
So here's the crazy thing about this specific restaurant. Like I said, this was a fine dining steakhouse meant to do about 100 and let's call it maximum 150 people a night. So when we built this from scratch as Popazzo, we built it to function as a space that was functionable to hold 150 people.
how many people does Barbusa hold?
Holds about 150.
Okay.
Holds, but we turn that 3 or 4 times.
Right.
Point what I'm trying to say is that then when Barbusa came along, we kind of remodeled the look and the feel, but not necessarily the functionality of it, because when we opened up Barbusa, the intention wasn't, I mean, obviously we wanted to do 500 people, but we didn't expect to do 500 people.
Oh, you're talking about 150 for a whole night.
a night.
Got it.
Yeah.
And you turn 2 or 3 times the
Correct.
table 2 or 3 times.
Correct.
Got
Whereas
it.
Popazzo was a more fine dining place.
You're spending 2-3 hours.
Correct.
Got it.
And you're spending 150 to 200 a head. Here, you're spending 40 or 50, and we're turning that a couple different times.
Very interesting. Okay.
Point that I'm
Yeah.
saying is like, that's a lot of where our growing pains come from, is because we've have this restaurant that is capable. We can do 500 people, but functionally
You have to.
but functionally, it's not really meant for 500 people. So throughout these 8 years, we have really tried to kind of functionally figure out, okay, what can we do to make this a little bit more efficient? What can we do at the bar to make this more efficient? What can we do here to make this more efficient? Because when you're doing 500 people, And my famous words I tell my brothers all the time, like the hard thing about restaurant in general, but this space specifically, because we do such a great numbers every single day, is like it's a moving train, and like we can't close, we can't stop, we can't like say hold on, like it's continually a moving train, and so to fix a moving train a lot of times is really difficult. So I give all the credit to our chefs, to our staff, who work in this place that, maybe not as functional as a restaurant that
Of its size.
Correct.
Right.
When you build a kitchen, the way things are set up is like you have stations, right? So, for example, this guy here does pastas. This guy here does pastas. This guy here does entrees. This guy here does appetizers, and that guy here does pizza. You can't add more, right? Because there's only a certain number of equipment, and so room, space,
people that can fit.
Exactly.
Right.
Like you can't. So we had to build this piece out here to have a little bit of pressure off of one extra person out here to make salads, et cetera, et cetera. So
Got it. Very cool.
we'll have expos typically standing here, 2 expo guys standing here who are getting the plates and then essentially bringing them to the tables. So,
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You got the entree guy here because this is where his oven is for the steaks and the fish and et cetera, et cetera. So you got one guy working here who's only working on entrees. And then the other thing that a lot of people don't even think about is the prep guys in the morning who are here before.
Which is right now.
Yeah.
Right.
So right now we got 2 prep guys prepping some of the sauces to be, made for tonight. So that takes a lot of work in itself to prep food.
This is the corner office. This is breaking. Nobody's ever seen this except for very, very few people. This is where the CEO, this is where the magic happens, people. Look at the luxury.
Yeah.
Look at, not only does he, is he a host, not only is he yelling at people, but he's also the IT guy, the phone guy,
shit.
the ordering guy.
So I want to show you something real quick because this kind of just goes back on our principles. But everyone knows who walks in this restaurant knows who Stefano is, right? He's the older gentleman who's been a waiter here since day one, and literally everyone loves him. This girl who comes in here all the time literally made a calendar
Oh my gosh.
of him and her. And it's all pictures of him and her and him and
Amazing.
yeah, and it's like that stuff just doesn't really happen.
Yeah.
Like we're grateful for a lot of it.
Also, feel really, really bad that I've never made a calendar. I got a lot of work to do.
Watch your step. So this is the connection to Lala.
All right, so as we walk into Lala, just really quickly, so Lala is the new brand.
Correct.
It's right next door.
Yep.
Obviously, people can kind of see that.
Yep.
Well, give us some background as we walk in
Yeah.
on how this all came about.
Yeah, so this was a space that was vacant. It actually held a dog shop for quite a long time. And it was vacant for some time, and we just tossed around so many different ideas. Should we make it our corporate office? Should we make it an event space? Should we make it whatever? And we landed upon Lala, which is a cocktail bar with shareable bites and items, and really alcohol focused. And yeah, it's a small little place. It's a great compliment to Barbusa. Part of the reason why this just made so much sense to do something, kind of completely different than Barbusa. More chill vibe, more intimate, sexy, cozy. Obviously you can't see the full aspect of it, but you kind of get the gist with how intimate and cozy the space is.
When you guys were creating a cocktail menu, because you said alcohol's a emphasis in this small bar like this, how were you guys looking at the cocktail menu in relation to what you guys already do next door and how that's different, and walk me through that?
Yeah, so I feel so like I'm boasting about the numbers that we do, but I'm just going back to what Barbusa does. Barbusa, again, like I said, does 500 people. If people are having 2 or 3 drinks a night, that's 1,500 drinks flying through a bar that was, again, like I said, meant to do 200 drinks. With that being said, we kind of had to tailor the cocktail menu at Barbusa to be able to be made quickly, right? No one wants to wait 20 minutes, 25 minutes for their cocktail. So when we came over here, we really wanted to do something a little bit more intricate. Our bar manager, his name is Antonio, he really dove into like a lot of awesome different flavors and a lot of different ingredients and time and effort and energy to go into these cocktails, because obviously, like I said, next door, you're gonna get a great cocktail, but it's gonna be made in 30 seconds. Here, it's gonna be made in a couple minutes. They're really gonna take their time with everything. We have, specialty ice cubes and imported flavors and imported garnishes and et cetera, et cetera. So it really is a different kind of style of cocktail between the two places, which again was our intention.
Is there a different type of bartender that you have for this bar versus Barbusa?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, like, someone's got to be able to withstand making 1,500 drinks a night, right? Like, that takes a special human being to get pounded in the well, serving drinks.
I'm not gonna make a joke.
That's fair. To get hammered in the well by constantly from 5 o'clock to 11 o'clock. So I think there's a difference between a speed bartender and really like a craft bartender who's really like, curating like a good cocktail. I'm not saying that our cocktails aren't good next door, but you kind of get.
What are some challenges that you guys have experienced as you opened up something new and looking at the differences of running two restaurants side by side, but they're different. They're the same but different, right? Like you have similarities and there's economies that you can use both by overflow going here and back and forth and managing it to some degree. But what are some things that have come up over the last maybe 2 or 3 months as you guys have been open that have been like different or shocking or something that we may not know?
So one aspect obviously is you add more people to the building, right? So now we just added 10 or so more employees at one time to an already 50 plus employee at one time establishment.
There's 50 next door?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that. And so this is
another 10. Another 10.
Wow.
So now you got 60 people.
all at one time.
All at one time.
Wow.
So
because as a consumer, we see, and I mean, just looking at a restaurant, you figure there's a couple of people in the back, kind of making all the magic happen.
Yeah.
But especially at Barbusa, as I've been there, I don't know, 1,000 times plus, you think there's maybe 20.
Right.
And that even feels high.
Right.
To see or hear that there's 50 is absolutely shocking. So you are truly orchestrating I think train is too slow and too one-sided.
Totally.
You've got things coming at you from all different directions.
And
it's like a synchronized swimming event.
It's so funny. I was actually talking to someone who owns a car dealership the other day who was just kind of asking similar questions to you about the business and maybe potentially wanting to get in the business. And I said, and this is a very small portion, but you kind of get the gist of what I'm trying to say. I said, when you have a car that's sold, that it's going out the front door, right? Because you have however many cars and it's a big fucking thing that's going out your front door. If you sold a car, right? Mm-hmm. With anything else in the restaurant business, you don't really know. And that's really, again, like I said, a small aspect of managing people, but a big portion of it, because you don't know if that bartender is giving free drinks all night. It's a very small portion of what we do here, but it is a major important thing to note for people that don't really understand about the business. It's like stealing and theft is a real thing.
It's a real thing, and that's where margin comes in,
Heck
right?
Yeah.
So I have a question, and I've never actually asked this, but as someone I enjoy whether I'm eating or drinking, like sitting at the bar, like interacting with the bartender. Yeah. When I order a drink, and this happens probably 80% of the time, and I want to understand the strategy behind it. First of all, one, do you shot glass pour drinks? Mm-hmm. Because I'm assuming you don't want somebody with a heavy hand. Mm-hmm. But that bugs me. I don't know why. It's like, hey, do your best, guess.
Totally.
But I feel like a kid when they put the shot glass up and they do this and they pour it in.
Right.
I just don't like the vibe very much. And I don't think you guys do that for the most part. Is there something that you guys have like, why do most places do it?
So for the reason why people do it is for margins, right? That's kind of the only way for whomever is watching these people make drinks is to say, okay, this guy's pouring the correct amount of booze inside of this person's drink,
Right.
So that we make our
Especially if you're making 2,000.
exactly
right?
correct margins. When it comes to a place like here, where like I was saying, where the drinks are really curated and crafted, you want to make it's a recipe, right? So if the recipe says to add X amount of salt into something, you're going to measure out the salt and pour it in the salt. If the recipe says it needs a shot of liquor, you're going to make sure that that shot is correct, or else maybe the drink might not taste the same.
Yeah, that's a good point.
In bars like this, that's the reason. In bars like Barbusa, we're not pouring it out because we simply don't have the time. And you know, there's different ways to figure out if someone's pouring more or less or whatever the case may be. There's different strategies that you as a business owner can kind of implore on them, but no, I think that I hate it too.
When you walk into a restaurant for the first time, what are some of the things that you look for or you're observing that people like me who's not in the restaurant industry, at least not yet, that we're maybe not doing? What are some of the little detail that you either notice or some of the things with the staff or the menu or the bar? How does your vision when you walk into a new restaurant?
So I only do this when I am with someone other than my wife, because if I go to dinner with my wife, she like begs me to not do anything when it comes to, we're going to eat.
Just enjoy.
We're coming to eat. We're not coming to critique or
awesome.
talk about the business or anything like that. But you know, obviously the first thing that I notice is going to be the employees. And you know, how they're interacting with guests and how they're interacting with me. That's always my first and foremost kind of critique is like, okay, how is my server so far? Or how are they interacting with me? And then secondarily, I'm going to look at the menu. I'm obviously going to dive into prices a lot more than maybe you would, or any regular consumer would look at prices. Maybe someone's going to say like, that's too expensive. But I can be like, oh, it's expensive because filet costs this much.
Yeah.
Whereas someone doesn't really know how much filet costs.
Except when they go to the store and everybody's like, holy shit, my bill is $150 when it used to be $75.
Totally.
Right?
Primarily, my wife and I go to sushi.
Yeah.
Because I can't make it.
Yeah.
I don't really know how much a lot of that stuff costs, so it doesn't bother me that way.
Right.
And
they're like, hey, babe, I can't turn this off. We have to go to sushi.
Yeah,
because I have no fucking clue.
Exactly.
That's great.
So that's
you want me to focus on you? We're going to sushi.
That's honestly the
hilarious.
truth of the matter for sure, because it's something that I'm not familiar with. I love it, and I appreciate sushi to the highest degree, but it's something that I don't know, and also something that I can't make at home, so I don't care if I'm spending X amount of dollars on sushi because I can't do it at myself.
Yeah. Awesome.
Whereas if I go to a restaurant that has a plate of pasta, I'm like...
How did you guys come up with the design, and you've got shoes on the wall, and I've heard some of the stories, but how did you first of all come up with this design, and then maybe if we could just kind of walk us through.
So first and foremost, we wanted it to be kind of Barbusa's more sophisticated, sexy sister, if you will. Per the reason why we decided to name it a female's name, why it's called Lala, and so we kind of wanted to integrate those same like ideas of like the sexiness, the coziness, the chic, the kind of playful kind of aspects into it. We called it one of her first places she has done, but she's actually a really talented girl. She used to work as a hostess for us. She went to architectural and design school, and then kind of worked under some people, and then kind of gave her a shot on helping us out. And so the way she likes to kind of explain what we were trying to envision here is like a sexy, maximalist, minimalist kind of mixture.
Cool.
Where we wanted to be timeless, but we also wanted to be chic and sexy and kind of loud.
Memorable and all that.
Timeless, because I think that's important when you open up a restaurant, is timeless.
Yeah.
I think those are the restaurants that kind of withstand those long 20, 30-year runs, if they can withstand the different interior design trends. So we wanted to do a little bit of that with the wood and the marble and the colors that we chose, and then we were okay with kind of taking some chances, with the fringe on the bar, the seats, pattern on the bar stools, and the shoes, and the rugs, and the lighting, and so we just.
Is it very random, or is there like is it time period specific, or is there just a lot of different elements of different things that are put together just for the entire aesthetic of it?
Yeah, going back to just how we operate as a restaurant group, we're very hands-on, like I said. I'll tell you a quick funny story. There was a restaurant guy who owns a ton of restaurants in San Diego. I won't name him, but he walked in here to check up on us. He's a good friend of ours. That's what we've taught, is to be really hands on deck as much as we can. And if I'm gonna pay someone this amount, I'd rather just do it myself.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I guess lastly, we'll wrap with, what are some of the things that you guys are thinking about for the future? So we've looked at Barbusa, Lala, the espresso martini. Yeah. How do you keep managing all of those three things? What's next? What's the focus? How are you driving? How are you being a father, a husband, entrepreneur, a restaurateur, and still, managing all of it?
I really want to focus a lot of my energy on being a father and being a good husband. Like, that's top priority. But then I have so many other goals and ambitions to be this entrepreneur and open up more restaurants and launch this espresso martini and do all these things. Luckily, my brothers and I really have a good partnership, and we can really kind of lean on each other to handle stuff that maybe I'm slacking on or someone else is slacking on, and we all just do what we need to be done. But with that being said, yeah, of course, we want to open up many more restaurants. I want to sell my liquor brand in 3 to 5 years. I want to, I think the goal is to probably open up more Barbusas. I think that makes the most sense. The tough thing is, and maybe I'm going too in depth in this and it might be boring, but I think the tough part is how do you can replicate a restaurant and a concept and a vibe, if you will, but how do you replicate the people? Yeah. And that's something that we've struggled with for a really long time, is how do you replicate the success of Barbusa in a different neighborhood without the people inside of it?
Well, you'd certainly, I'm just an entrepreneur at heart. I don't know shit, so take this for what it's worth. But you'd probably have to transplant some of these people into somewhere new.
I think we think bigger, right? As younger generations than my dad ever did. But he's doing what he knows how to do. Yeah. And I envy those people that dream these like crazy big ideas. I do that as well. But when something is ingrained in you to like, all right, I have to do this. It's tough to let go. And that's in like anything, right. Like it's really tough to let go of something that you really take this great pride and ownership in. How do you let go? And that's something that probably a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, is like, how do you let go?
Totally. My father started me, he was a landscape contractor, and he started me digging ditches. Yeah. And so part of me is just the soul of who I am is like, I'll grab a shovel and I'll dig the ditch, right? Like, and so you have this mix of like how I was raised and what I learned and some of the core principles, and I know Joe has a lot of the same things. But to scale and grow and build to where the opportunity goes, you have to battle some of that inner teaching into, yes, I want to keep that because the core of what we learned is principal to the success, but also if we're going to grow and build something special, I can't do every single thing.
sure.
I can't dig ditches anymore.
And-
I can't
and
screw in the
your,
chair.
Your dad probably made you become the man that you are today.
100%,
The
there's no
entrepreneur,
question.
the businessman that you are today. Because I think, the shitty thing is nowadays a lot of kids these days, or so-called entrepreneurs or whomever, people in workforce don't have those core principles that you and I were taught back in the day. It's
We were
like,
so blessed to have that as the core
100%.
principle that you learn, right? Hard work, because hard work will trump smarts
Anything else.
any day of the week,
For sure.
right? And so
For
without that as the base for how we build, you're in a tougher situation. And so
Yeah.
I'm super grateful, and I know you're grateful for what Joe has instilled in you and what he's brought to the table and
Yeah.
all of these different endeavors.
Yeah.
I want to thank you. I know how busy you are.
thank
Now
you.
I know you're busier than I thought, because I thought you had 20 people you were managing. Now I know it's 50. You have 2 restaurants plus a startup. So I love you, and I
Thank
appreciate
Love
you,
bro.
brother.
That
Thanks.
was awesome. Thank you. That was great.